Hi everyone, it's Roger here from What's On at DisneyPlus.com with a news update on how Marvel are changing what they're doing with their Disney Plus shows and how they are doing a complete change on Daredevil Born Again. But before we go any further, make sure you do hit that subscribe button to keep up with the latest Disney Plus news. So the Marvel Studios Disney Plus series look like they're going to be going through some massive changes because according to a recent article from The Hollywood Reporter, things are really starting to be changed because Marvel have been spending a lot of money making TV series for Disney Plus, but they've been doing it in a kind of a untraditional way. They've been treating them like making movies. They've been using film executives and they weren't doing pilots, they weren't doing anything like that. They were just kind of greenlighting a whole series. They were filming stuff, and then in post-production they were going back and refilming stuff afterwards and doing a lot of visual effects, and the budgets were ballooning. There was massive problems with Secret Invasion. We've also seen that with some of the other shows as well. And so things are now going to be changing, and actually in some ways we can thank She-Hulk show for that, because they did something slightly different on there where they had a showrunner. Now you might be thinking, well, that's nothing that different. This was the big thing, was Marvel wasn't treating its shows like TV shows. They were treating them like movies, which often felt like a movie just cut up. They are now going to be kind of going into the idea of treating the Marvel shows like their television shows, and they're going to be having a showrunner running it right the way through. Obviously they can have different directors, but have a much more focused with someone kind of leading it right the way through. They have been doing this with some of the other shows as well. Loki is a prime example of something that they did a little bit different on that one compared to things like Miss Marvel, and they're hoping that they can improve the quality of shows on this point, but also reduce the costs, because then they can spend less money doing reshoots and special effects and stuff. And you kind of look at this and go, this is not, like common sense of like how to make a TV show, but that's the key thing. They weren't looking at it like making TV, they were treating it like movies, and there are some big differences. So we are going to start seeing a difference in terms of what we see. We know we're going to be seeing less Marvel shows anyway. They're going to be cutting back, but they're going to be making them more like a TV show. Lengthwise, we might see them being a little bit more in line with a normal television show, so they can put them out on linear and like fast services and put ads in them a little bit easier. Obviously, that's a key thing that they want to add in to make more revenue. But also now, just better creative. And I think that's a good thing. I think Marvel has suffered from the fact of things just not feeling connected. You get that like mid-season bit in the middle where they don't seem to know what they're doing, because they've kind of got the middle and they got and it's some of the shows are just not working properly, and this hopefully will start to improve things. So yeah, they're making big changes, but the big one right now is Daredevil Born Again. So they started filming this one back at the beginning of the summer, and there was also issues with the writing strike going on that they couldn't do rewrites. Well, obviously it all got stopped when they went on strike in July, and they've been watching the stuff back, and they have decided to pretty much almost restart the entire show. They have basically got rid of the writers, they've got rid of the directors. They're going to try and use some of the footage that they've already filmed, but I wouldn't even be surprised if they do not to start again, because essentially what the problem was this series, apparently, according to all the information that's coming out now, it was more like a law show, and it was all sort of seeing Matt Murdock kind of in suited and booted, kind of doing law stuff, fighting maybe with sort of the police services that had like the Punisher logo on them, and because they were taking inspiration from the Punisher. And I mean, that's quite a political hotbed to jump into, which is like, do you really want to be doing that right now? So that was an issue, because obviously the Punisher is going to be in the series, and apparently Daredevil himself doesn't turn up till episode 4, which you've got to be, I mean, while you like TV shows, and we've had shows in the past where the superhero doesn't always turn up straight away, and you only have them in the end at the last little bit. That's nothing too uncommon, especially because it costs a lot more. But if you go 4 episodes when you've already seen 3 seasons of this show, we've already seen him as Daredevil, it's like we don't need to introduce him or anything like that. So that's an issue. By the sounds of it, this show just sounded like it was a mess, a creative mess. So they're basically just going back to the drawing board and kind of essentially, by the sounds of it, like restarting from scratch, or kind of just, I don't know if like restarting from scratch is maybe the better way of doing it rather than trying to use what they've got. I don't know, but very interesting to see how this show is just kind of basically fallen apart. It was supposed to come out next year. Yeah, no chance now. I mean, essentially we're at a point where it's going to be at least 2025. So the show was announced to be originally 18 episodes. Looks like it's going to be 2 seasons. Now, whether or not that is 18 episodes split into 2, so you get 2 seasons of 9 episodes, or if we're going to get 2 longer seasons, I mean, they have to get the story right. Marvel apparently as well are now going to be looking at their shows to try and do multiple seasons and try and focus on a few core characters rather than trying to set up the next big thing, the next big movie. I think that's the trouble with this interconnective stuff of, you can feel it with some of the shows, you know, it's always that kind of thing like, I've watched this, oh, you've just set up this, or you're just setting up this, or you're introducing this character to do with that. And sometimes it doesn't even feel necessary. And so I think they're going to just go back to making shows much more focused, which I think from our point of view will be better. It will give us a better show. I don't necessarily think we want to be going down the line of like recreating Inhumans or anything like that, but there's a reason why superhero shows have been so popular in the past. You know, you look at Smallville, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV superhero stuff works, but they have to treat it like a TV series, and I think that's been the big problem with Marvel. So they again, you know, they all say like, well, Marvel Studios, you know, haven't made really TV series until Disney Plus came along. That's because Marvel Television used to make like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and stuff. So I mean, it's like, well, you took over that company, you had all the executives, you've been in, you know, you're kind of looking at, yeah, this is excuse isn't really kind of working for me, but we're going to see some big changes going forward with Marvel. I'm hoping it's going to be better, you know. And also as well, like giving us a little bit more idea of these characters and using them. Because look at like what we've seen so far. We're seeing all these characters introduced, but we're seeing no payoff. Nothing happening afterwards. Where's Moon Knight? You know, where are we going to next see Hawkeye? When are we going to see, you know, Falcon? You know, do we... Rather than just setting up the films and stuff, I don't know. I think this is going to be better. You know, if we get like a couple of seasons of Daredevil, and then maybe we get a couple of seasons of maybe like Wonder Man or something like that, and just focus on like one or two characters at a time. You know, you can bring in special guests and you can do other things like that. Like, because I'd really like to see some more of She-Hulk, because I felt that was I enjoyed it. I think they probably need to do less of She-Hulk in terms of CGI. I think they should do what they did with the old 70s show, where, you know, essentially they only really bring out She-Hulk when they need to and kind of do it a little bit more cheaply rather than have her just walking around the office. That would be how I would do it to save money. Could be easier. But I did enjoy She-Hulk, and apparently the way that they created She-Hulk, they were much more happy with, because there was much more control going on right the way through that because of how they did it. But maybe not the best example in terms of a lot of people didn't like this show, but just how they created it obviously worked better, because the money they spent on Secret Invasion they spent so much money because there was so much infighting. And I'll be honest, I'd rather with Daredevil that they just went, right, this is just not working, let's do this, let's fix it. Because with Daredevil as well, we've already had 3 seasons of the character from the Netflix series. We've got expectations, and apparently it was nothing like that. And they have to do things a little bit different because they don't want it to be just season 4 of Daredevil. They want it to feel different. But by the sounds of it, it was so different. And I don't know, I personally think, you know, sometimes scratching things and starting again, I mean, it is going to cost the balloon of the show to go up, but yeah, I think this is probably better in the long run. But yeah, we're going to see some big changes now within Marvel. I think this is the good thing, but let us know what you think. Do you think it's a good idea that Marvel start treating its shows like shows? And what do you think about the complete like reboot of Daredevil? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below. Go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe, and I shall see you guys soon. Laters.